King Cyrus Show.
Welcome.
Where we are lifting up the name of Jesus.
Jesus Christ.
That's right.
Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ. So, we have, amen, my brother from another mother, amen, Cali Dreamz that's in the
building. Let's go.
Let's go.
Cali Dreamz. Okay, Christ disciple.
Yes. And we got my brother Arrow that's in the building.
We always in the building.
We always in the building.
From the foundations to the roofs, amen.
Yes, yes, indeed. Yes,
from the
indeed.
foundations to the roof, amen.
Yes.
Glory to God.
So how we start things on off is how we met and everything like that. So we met through my boy DB Reborn. It was his birthday party, and so. He said, we came on through and then, we chopped it up a little bit and, was telling me your testimony and the things that, you've been in the game, the industry and everything like that. And I was like, man, we got to get you on to the King Cyrus Show. So welcome, man. Welcome, my brother.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. No doubt, man. No doubt. So, we have y'all was already chopping down all that.
I know.
I like to say things, but, Arrow, he's like,
look, I have been... let
me hear it fresh.
I know, my bad. Sorry. I've been listening to his entire catalog on Spotify all day long.
We want to get it fresh, so I'll be like, oh my God,
Okay, all right. My bad.
So we working on that though. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we working on that. Glory to God.
Glory to God.
Hey man. So anywho goes. So let's start off, with just your testimony, man, and how you came to the Lord. Let's start it off with that, break a little ice.
Okay. Well, my name's Noal Lopez, and my name actually Dreamz came from my brother, Mark Lopez, rest in peace. They used to call him Dreamer back in the days in the early 90s, and back then I was 4 years younger. I was his younger brother. We looked a lot alike. So people used to mistake me for him in the streets and be like, hey, Dreamz, what's up? And then they see me like, oh, man, I thought you was your brother.
So then, you guys was like twins? Or like you guys looked a lot?
Yeah, well, because when I got around, when I was like in junior high, 8th grade, right, transferring over to ninth, that's when everyone started shaving their heads. Early 90s, the baggy pants.
Right, the baggy Ben Davis and all that.
The old school look, product of the 90s look. Yeah, so. Anyhow, so once I did shave my head and went that route, people were always mistaking me for my brother. So they started calling me Little Dreamz. And then, my brother passed in 95, and then I just kind of carried the name. So there's a lot of background behind that name, Dreamz. So it started with that, man. But, I grew up in the church. My mom, my dad, they knew the Lord. My father used to do homeless ministry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So as a kid, I got to go with him to downtown LA on Skid Row, also on Hollywood Boulevard in Hollywood. He would preach, and he would, with other brother in the Lord, Bill Bailey, which they're now with the Lord. But they would get together. People kind of met in the street, kind of met someone else was doing the same thing, and then they just united, and they would preach the word, bring food and clothes, and just love on people and share the word of God. So I got to see that early on. So I've been around it. I've been in it. Unfortunately, in 1995, like I said, my brother passed away. He was shot and killed on his birthday, and that was the first time I experienced anyone dying. Was my own brother, and I seen him take his last breath in front of me. So that threw me for a loop. That's when my life changed and dramatically, and I started going the other way.
I got you. I got you. That makes sense.
Sorry for your loss, though, man.
Oh well, he's with the Lord, and I just say that's why when people look at youngsters and people in the gangs or whatever, they don't understand the root pain behind certain things. They just look at him, oh, he's a drug addict, or he's a drunk, or he's this or that, but they don't understand what's the root behind it. Exactly. And because to me, before that, I wasn't in no gang, I wasn't drinking, I wasn't smoking, I wasn't doing none of that crazy stuff. I mean, I was around it. My brother kind of protected me. He kind of kept me from certain things. He would not allow people to get me in. I mean, even though our house was the party house, I'm talking about like our house. people climbing in and out of the window at night. You know,
Right,
I know exactly what you mean, bro.
the mattress to hold the door.
Yeah.
You know, and
That's old school, right? Yeah.
Oh my God. Yo.
Backyard boogies, you know what I'm saying?
yeah. So
Was you charging at the door too?
man, I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed to bring people over.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, I get that. Yeah.
But long story short, my brother had a lot of love for me in the sense that you know, when even before he passed, he sat me down outside, and this was a very touching moment because my brother, you know, he was very active as far as he was very hyper. You know, he had a ADHD, so people kind of didn't understand how he would act before he think. You know, and he just do things. But my brother had a big heart for people. If you were his friend and somebody was doing you wrong, he didn't care who you are, white, black, or whatever. You're his friend. He got you, and he did that.
Right.
I seen him get down with two homies from Pacoima and from different who were his boys, but because they were trying to get down with his homie who was white. And it was really like a racial thing. And then my brother's like, hey, man, you ain't doing none of that here.
Right,
this is my house. And they're like, oh, well, you've been in the county. And you know how it is. Go, yeah, we ain't in county. This is my house. This is my home.
Yeah.
You're going to respect
exactly.
the people in my house.
Exactly.
And if not, we getting down.
Yeah. Right.
And, you know, that's the type of person my brother was. He just loved people like that. And so when he died, he had a very big funeral. You know, a lot of different neighborhoods, different people that came.
Wow.
You know, he was from Ali Local, so a lot of homies from Ali Locals from the Valley in 818. There was people from Sanford, from San Fernando, from all just different Guanton, like just different areas that just knew my brother and just loved my brother.
Right.
You know, I didn't know he had that many friends.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, after that, so like I said, then it was now a battle for me, for my survival, because the same people was trying to get me because they were fear of retaliation, because now all these different hoods are going for them.
Right. Yeah.
It wasn't just one gang. It was like just different hoods going for them. So now a lot of them skipped town. A lot of them started trying to move out of state. A lot of them tried, you know, all that mess, all that. So pushing forward, I mean, you know, I joined the gang. You know, I did a lot of things. So from my teens all the way through my 20s was just that back and forth. Me going into the streets, you know, acting a fool, getting locked up, going to jail. And it wasn't until 2008, I was 28 years old. And I went to jail for like the 4th time, and I had priors. I got busted for attempted robbery. You know, I had assaults on my record. I had robbery on record, and thing is that it all piled up. I never did no prison time. So so when the judge saw it now, and he's like, "Oh, you ain't done no prison time. Okay, now you're gonna do some time." You know,
right.
And but during that time was like, it was like right before I had my daughter. You know, because I didn't have no kids. But it wasn't until that time I was like, all of a sudden now I'm having a daughter, right?
Right.
And I believe God used that to kind of bless me, to calm me down in a sense, and because you know when I did get out, and I'm gonna get to that testimony what happened in jail, but when I did get out, you know, and I you know I have my own homies that I rode with. A lot of my generation are gone. They all died, OD'd or something, or in prison. You know, there's not very few still around, but those that are, you know, they know I'm with the Lord. They actually come to me for prayer at time to time. But I remember I was in downtown LA in the alleys where you go shopping for clothes, you know. I was down there and I saw my homie Flacco. My homie Flacco I ain't seen in a while. And anyhow, last time he seen me, man, I was the one I used to run the hood. You know, I used to run them and show them how to do things and stuff. Yeah. When he seen me with my daughter, I remember I'm walking, he's like, Dreamz. And I turn around and go, oh, Flacco, what's up? And he looks at me. He looks at the stroller, and he's like, "Oh man."
He's like, "Are you a daddy now?" You know what I'm saying?
And he said this. Oh, so that's what it took to calm you down, huh?
Wow, dang.
But, hey, the Lord knows though. You know what I'm saying? Hey,
he said that's what it took, huh? And but you know, so in 2008, 2009, when I was in serving time in jail, and I was fighting 15 years. And I remember I was in this place where I knew I was wrong. Like I said, I knew the Lord growing up, and my brother died in 1995, and then my dad died 5 years later. I had no one to look up to. Yeah. So, but at those times that I was alone and I was homeless or whatever where I was at, I always knew to call to God. I always did call to God, pray to Him, even when I was spun out on drugs, when I was. in certain places, I still knew to lean to him.
Because that relationship, that that seed was planted in an early, your early stage when you was a youngster, So
and of course the hurt, a lot of the pain that causes the anger and the emotions, and so I reacted. But so sitting there in jail, I was about to get sentenced. I thought, okay, I'm gonna be able to beat this case because the suspect, or not suspect, the person wasn't showing up, right? The witness, the witness wasn't showing up, and it was like, okay, you're about to go to trial, and I'm like, okay. Then all of a sudden he shows up. Dang. And it's like okay,
right? You're like, oh snap, dang,
and you going to jail. I'm proud of you, but you going to jail.
And then, my public pretender told me, he's like, oh well, the witness showed up a day before court. He showed up a day before court. So whatever the detectives, it was a paisa. So whatever they told him, they scared him to show up. He showed up a day before. But anyhow, so all I know is I was sitting in my cell, I was ready to get sentenced, and at the time I was broken. I had no one to talk to, no one to write. When I was in jail, I wouldn't write. There's nobody to write. Homies, they remember you for only so long, and then you're on your own in it. You're on your own in there. Right. I've done jail 2 times for homeboys for things they did. I didn't, but I just took the rap because that's just the kind of person I was, right? Right. And then I get out and find out, dude, they forgot all about me. They partying. They doing their own. You know what I mean?
Right.
Nobody really cares. It's a selfish life.
Right. It is.
And I don't blame them because that's what that lifestyle is.
Same thing too.
We're selfish people, naturally.
Yes.
But sitting there, having no one to turn to, I got jumped in the cell by some enemies. I was a keep away. When you get down in jail, they have you as a keep away because you fight with certain people. They got to keep you away from the general population. Right. So I was alone in my own cell, and I was sitting there, and I got on my knees and I prayed, and I said, Lord, I know I said this before, and I had done this many times, but I really mean it now. I mean it now. And I was so ashamed I couldn't even look up to heaven. And I just said, Lord, if you forgive me, if you just let me out this one time, I promise I would change my life. I would change my ways. Right. And at that moment, I just felt this warm presence in the room, in that cell. And it was a cold cell, but I felt this warm presence that it was so powerful. And to this day, one of my most powerful experiences with the Lord, and it just filled the room up. And it's like, he didn't even have to say a thing. Just feeling his presence, I understood he heard me, and he was there. Yeah. And I cried. I wept, and I was like, wow, because I wept because I was like, after all I'd done to hurt you, after all I'd done to disrespect you, to not disobey you, you're still there. Yeah, you're still there. Can you imagine? Like when our moms are that are praying for us, and how much we act a fool. We don't listen to moms, because I've been there. My mom was praying for me, and it's like, did we tell our mom, F you, I don't care, disrespect her, all that, and expect her to still love us? Right. Yeah. But here, God, we disrespect him all the time. Yeah. And he still loves us. And he's still there. The moment we call on him, because that's what he was for me, and that's when I realized his unconditional love. Amen. His unconditional love.
Amen. What a guy, man.
Yeah.
Wow. That was
dope. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, no, man, go take this because I got questions. Go ahead, man. You better get them in.
I know you, man.
I'm ready to go.
Oh, man. Oh, shoot. Okay. Well, so how did you get into the music?
Well, the music, you know what? It just kind of fell into place. I believe God instills gifts into you and talents into you, and we just need to discover them. Right. And so right before my brother passed, actually, I think I was about 13, 14 years old. I loved music. I remember my first CDs. Fortunately, I used to steal CDs from the Kmart, man. My mom wouldn't give me no money. Right. Forgive me, Lord, but
CD, man.
But I remember I stole Scarface the Diary.
What?
Drew Down.
That was a banging album.
Yeah.
I don't blame you.
Scarface the Diary. Drew Down, Pimp of the Year.
Drew Down. Oh, man.
Yeah. So it was back then, 1994. I believe 1994, So I would listen to the Dog Pound and Snoop and all the people that was at that time, you know, Pac, Biggie, of course, Bone Thugs, even Wu-Tang and the 36 Chambers and Cypress Hill. They had their third album out, Temples of Boom. At the time, I used to hear Black Sunday. So I had a lot of music that I just liked. And then, I don't know, I just would start writing stuff and just put it together. And it's funny, my brother Mark, rest in peace, Dreamer, he never got to see me like what I'm doing now, which I believe he sees me from heaven. But I'm talking about here on the earth. But I came home one time after school, and he found my lyrics. He found one of my writings, right? And it's funny. He's like, Chris, because, you know, my middle name's Chris. He's like, Chris, come over here. Come in my room. And I'm like, yeah, what's up? And he's like, hey, look, check out what I wrote. And I start reading it, and I was like, man, that's mine.
Hey, little homie, I need you to look at my rhyme book. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. That's so good.
And he was like, what? You wrote this?
He was like, yo, man,
bars.
this is fire.
Hey, man, this is some bars right here.
Bars right here, homie. Like, wait, hold on, wait a minute.
Oh,
this is me.
man.
That was funny, man. But you know, it went from when he passed, I wrote a song about him, and I put it at the corner of the liquor store where everybody would put the candles. And I remember I would walk by and see it every now and then. To me, it was a poem, but then later I started looking at it. I'm like, wait, this looks like a song.
Right.
So I took it down, took it back, and then I started working on it, and then I just started writing. I kept it to myself mainly because you know, back then there was groups that you start busting, they put you on the spot, right?
Oh yeah. Go ahead and bust that flow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man, off the dome.
Straight off the dome.
And if you was whack, you know, they would tell you. So,
right. You be like, man, get out of here.
So, so I kept it to myself, and then 1996, I ended up making a homemade mixtape on a cassette tape, which my friend had a stereo, which he had CDs with instrumentals, and then we had a little tape recorder with a cassette tape.
That's what we did back in the day too. Yeah, you record it while you're playing it and stuff like that. Yeah,
exactly.
And you get on the microphone, and you start doing what you're doing. Yeah,
yeah. So I had like instrumentals of Master P or Too Short or whoever, and then I'll just rap over it. So I made 11 songs on a cassette tape, and then I dubbed it and passed it out to friends. And then in 1997, I get a call. I get invited to Backroom Entertainment, which is a studio in Glendale. It's not there anymore, but it was by the Glendale Galleria. And so this person heard my tape because someone showed it to him, and he's like, man, he invited me down to the studio. So I get picked up, taken over there by this beautiful Asian girl. She just shows up at my house. I didn't know how serious it was until this beautiful Asian lady just shows up to my house, says, hey, I'm here to pick you up. I'm like, okay. I'm 17. Yeah. So I got in the car, I go. I didn't know what to think, but anyhow, so this guy's name was Blunt. He sat me there and he played my cassette tape, the whole thing through. And I was like, oh, I know the quality is not. He said, don't worry about the qualities. I'm listening to you. You write songs.
Right, right. The quality of songs, right.
Yeah, he's like, I'm listening to how organized you are. You write songs. And he's like, we could always clean up the quality. So he took me on to produce me at that time. And I remember just being in that studio, 1997. Brian McKnight came up in there with his son. Dang, wow. I remember seeing Coolio and Alv when Gangsta's Paradise was out. They was up in that studio.
Yeah. Okay. That's when he was out there. That's why he was in the Valley.
Yeah. So you know, it was a cool experience to see that. And to me, it was one of the biggest studios. I remember my first debut was called Free My Mind, and he had the MP machine, and they'll just play the loop, right? Of the beat. They'll just play it for whatever, an hour or two while people write. So I was sitting there and writing, and I was the youngest. I'm 17, Latino. I'm in here. Everyone else is black. Everyone else is black.
Right.
So it ain't like now where everybody's doing rap.
Yeah.
You know, there was no home studios. There was no laptops. There was no online distribution, nothing. It's like you either had the money to be in the studio or you was that dope that someone put the money to put you in the studio.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You got sponsored.
So I think that kind of divided the boo-boo stuff that you hear nowadays compared to people who do have talent.
Yeah, exactly.
So but just sitting there, there's this other guy. He was a blood, One Punch, man. He was sitting there, and I didn't question why they call him One Punch. He was huge.
Right. Well, he was like a Debo, huh? Yeah, kind of figured that.
Debo coming.
But so we're sitting there, and then he sees me sitting there, and at the time, I was smoking, and I was just doing my thing, chilling with the Asian girl, smoking.
Right.
And he's there writing, and he looked at me, and he's like, "Hey, you getting on this song?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "You got your verse?" I said, "Yeah, why?" He's like, "No, because I just see you just sitting there chilling, just smoking blunts and just,
He's like, "Yeah, what are we doing?"
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So yeah, then he's like, "Let me hear what you got." And I said, "All right." So I went ahead and spit it. And then when I was spitting it, he was just looking at me. He ran, he grabbed his home, he came back, said, hey, listen to this little nigga right here. Listen to this. I was like, he was just tripping.
He was like, dang, he got bars. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's what he said. But then right after that, he's like, oh, but it's too long. You got to shorten your bars. And I didn't know what bars were.
Right.
Yeah.
I was
it was like 32 bars. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you wrote more than 32 bars in.
I was just raw talent. I thought everybody did it that way. I didn't know about punching in.
Going in and out and everything like that.
I thought when Snoop or whoever went out there, they actually busted all the way through. I didn't know until I got into the booth. So it didn't take till like midnight when they put me, and this is a huge recording room. I mean, the booth itself had like 8 mics coming down from the ceiling and stuff. Like they have a whole party in there. Like it was decked out. And this is when everything was on tape, the DAT tapes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I went in there and I was like, what do I do? And then Blunt buzzed me, what do you mean? Do what you did upstairs. And I said, no, but that guy One Punch, he told me it was too long and I had to write 16 bars and I don't even know what that is.
Right.
And then he buzzes back. He's like, dude, he told you that? I said, yeah, he did. And he's like, that's why I sent him home.
Oh.
He said, that's why. He said, just do what you did upstairs. And I was like, all right. And then that was my first debut. But from that demo, I ended up meeting a friend, Katie Martin, and she was a very good friend. She was at college radio in San Francisco. She ended up working for different record labels like Arista. Anyhow, she started taking me into Interscope and Capitol Records and having these meetings with A&Rs when I was 17.
Wow, man.
And I remember being in Interscope with the A&Rs in their office, playing my demo for them. And, one was on the phone, the other one's just, was listening.
Right.
And then the tape plays, and then the next thing was an instrumental from that guy Blunt. I haven't recorded yet. So I just started busting right there live for him. They didn't expect that. And
You just started freestyling.
Yeah, it's something I already had wrote to that track.
Oh, I got you.
Right.
Yeah,
and I started busting it. And then it was like, Lord, save me from Satan, enemies killing me while I'm sleeping, creeping in my dreams. It seems to me, mind is a word to be telling me something that could be nothing wrong in this life of sin. Will I die, survive, again, repent, now bow down, sir, prayers will dwell in hell, eternal, worse than left in the pen. But I started.
All right, Trey, go.
So as I busted that, the guys on the phone looks at me and just looks. He's like, "Hey man, I gotta call you back." And he hangs up.
There we go.
Right.
And waits till I finish. And when I finished, then they're like, "Hey, I was on the phone right now. I was talking some business. I had to hang up." He's like, "Man, you got more of that?" And I was like, I know, that's all I got. And then they're like, okay, is this for us or what?
Yeah.
They
was already like, oh, we want that verse right there. Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's my only tape right now, but, I'm going to make more. They go, well, come back. They said, come back, So I knew they wanted me. I knew I had something, but I didn't know the business yet. I didn't know anything of it.
Of course, yeah.
And here they were telling me come back, and I was like, okay, cool. And at that time, I fell off with the person that was producing me at the time.
Wow.
This wasn't good business going on there. I learned early on how people would just use you for your talent.
Yeah.
Right.
And they don't care about you.
So it was the producer that was producing it? That you fell out with him?
Yeah, because there was just a lot of pushback where he would tell me like, oh, you hear these guys on, he'll show me a track with other rappers on it and say, can you learn their verses? And I said, yeah, why? And he's like, oh, because I want to redo it, but with your vocals. And I said,
what?
All right. And I didn't understand at first, but then I thought like, well, what happened to these guys?
Yeah.
Then pushing forward, I was supposed to do a show for my friend Katie in college radio in San Francisco, which she put me on. And she told me, she's like, look, we won't pay for the show, but we'll pay for your travel expense, for your hotel. We'll pay for food, but we're not paying for the show because that's all they could afford. And I was like, okay. But when I told Blunt, he said, nah, man, we need money. We got to get clothes. We got to get dancers. Like, he wanted to do the whole P. Diddy thing, you know?
Oh, right. He was like a whole show. Yeah.
Yeah. Because back then it was Puff Daddy and all that.
Right.
You know? So he was trying to go out. But I was like, man, this is an opportunity, right?
You're like, man, let's just do it, right?
Let's just do it. Yeah.
So he didn't want to, and he's the one with the music. I didn't have the music. So I called her back and said, I'm sorry, but I can't make it. And I told her why. And she's like, oh, man, I'm so upset. They were already expecting you. And now I got to find someone to replace you last minute. So when she got back into town later, I met up with her. We were cruising in her car. And I said, how'd the show go? And she said, oh, it went really, really well. And I was like, okay, great. Who'd you get to replace me? And she's like, oh, I found this group.
Oh, no.
She said, man, they were jumping on stage, one on the speaker. They were just doing all these crazy things. And I was like, yeah, what's the name? She's like, it's a new group, Black Eyed Peas.
Shut up.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they were not out yet. They were barely coming out.
So that was your spot right there.
Well, that was one of them.
Well, it was one of them.
One of them. You know,
Man.
But hey, man, glory to God that they had, but that Black I was like, yo, we need to find somebody.
Wow.
Yo, shout out to you.
Now,
man.
this is the thing. You couldn't do like your solo act at the time, or like.
Well, because I didn't know anything. Everything was on cassette, barely going to CD. So it's not like we had USBs and tracks like that.
Right,
he had everything on a drum machine.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
And it was his
at the time. Yeah, and because he got jealous of Katie, started telling me things to go against her, but she's helping me. She already told me, he's hating, so it just didn't work out. But but me and Katie, we stayed friends. Even at that time, she had the demo of That's the Joint, That's the Jam. Like, I heard the demo before he was even done, because she knew Taboo. She was close to him at that time, and so I heard it before it even came out. But pushing forward, last time I'm sitting with Blunt in his motel room, watching MTV, and the video "That's the Joint, That's the Jam" is playing, and I'm like, "Hey, look, these are the guys that took our spot." And he's like, "Oh, they're whack."
Oh, bro. Oh, man.
I said, really?
So he was just hating to the core right there. Then.
Yeah. And I was like, really? I was like, yeah, but look where they're at. Look where we're at.
right.
You know. But yeah.
Oh man.
But pushing forward, I went independent. You know, I worked. I used to work a double shift. I used to work and I used to slang. Back then, I was selling and doing all this to put myself in the studio. So 2002 and 3, I met independent producer Jesse Shaddis, which is he has his own studio out there. So I ended up working with him. Did my first album. Went to the streets, you know. I got a CD burner, used to dub my own disc, go out there and just push, man. And then I ended up getting invited to perform in Hollywood, opening up for Capone, Mr. Capone, and then I just started doing shows and just getting myself out there.
Okay.
That eventually led pushing forward, where I met Meech Wells in 2006, and then me and him, we did a mixtape together, which he produced in 2007 called The Execution, which was hosted by DJ LG from Black Wall Street. Like I said, and originally we sat down with DJ Warrior of Cali Untouchables back then, but we ended up going a different direction. But that opened up a new door for me, where I started working with mainstream artists. You know, on that mixtape, I worked with Little Uno from San Diego. And then I worked another cut with Mr. Shadow and Cocaine called Stretched Out Limo in my Stretched Out Limousine, and that was a hit for that time that people really liked. Then I met Badass from the LBC crew. Me and him got tight together, where we used to just call each other up around certain times. I would call him over to do interviews for people, or he, you know, and we did a song together. Then I worked with Sly Boog, and I met KK from Second to None through my cousin Bobby B. He DJs for Sugar Free. So
Bobby D's your cousin?
Bobby B, yeah, Bobby B. DJ Bobby B. He DJs for Sugar Free.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Dang, man.
So it just all started, you know, coming together with things I was doing. I ended up getting investors. I had sponsorship from tattoo shop Aslan Tattoos.
Wow.
They would press up my flyers, my T-shirts, or CDs, or they pay for my magazine ads. You know, so I would be in the LA Weekly, or I put myself in the local magazine.
So you was doing all that. So as you was hustling, you was marketing yourself at the same time.
Yes.
You know, so that was just paying for everything.
Yes.
You know,
online,
online and everything.
On the streets back then, there was online magazines like Dove CNN, West Coast News Network.
Mm-hmm.
So I met the owner Rudd through Meech, and then they liked my stuff, so we connected, and I would start releasing my stuff through there. Just any avenue that I can get my hands on before World Star and before all these other things came out, you know. And I just been in and out of so many labels. Well, I mean, back in the early 2000s, 2004, 5. I mean, besides the thing that happened with Interscope, so I met Big Chris Taylor. No, sorry, Big Chris Flores. I can't remember his name exactly. But he produced for Bone on back in the day. So he heard me, because I was there in a session. Someone paid me to come do. I used to ghostwrite for someone. I used to ghostwrite for this artist who ended up making it to the I forgot which show it was. But anyhow, he heard me. He said, "Hey, do you have an album?" I said, "Yeah." I gave him my first album. He took it to Sony. He came back. He said, "Hey, Sony love it, but can you do it in Spanish?" And
Whoa.
Yeah. And I was like, no. I said, that's the way I do it.
Right. You're like, no, you exactly.
Yeah, so then I came across Univision, because I had a friend who worked for the label. So I was sitting in the office talking to the A&R, and he was listening to my music, and he's like, "Well, you know, it's very West Coast." And I said, "What does that mean?"
Yeah. Like, that West.
Yeah. And then he said, "Well, look, it's good." He's like, "But you ever thought about doing reggaeton?" And at the time, you know, reggaeton.
Oh, that was really popping at that time. It was popping, like really popping.
Because that's when Daddy Yankee was coming.
Right.
Baby Bash, like that's when them.
They was doing the R&B, like the singing and all that. Yeah.
And I said, "Well, I never thought about doing that, and you know, when I come out, I want to be me." And he said, "Well, think about it." He's like, I know you think like you're selling out, but you're not really selling out because you're making money."
Right. He's like, in other words, compromise. You know, you just do it like this, and then you get that check.
That was clever.
So are you still getting paid off of that? Like off of the stuff that you wrote, like the ghostwriting and all that?
No, that was like work for hire stuff. That people would throw me a couple hundred to go write a verse or two, and then I just bounce. I just leave.
You never thought at that time, like, hey, for the longevity of it, like, oh man, I wrote this album, so then I could be able to get that the rest of my life. And, you know.
Back then I was young and I wasn't business minded. You know, I was street minded. You know, street minded is we want to make that quick buck and be out. We don't we don't think of the longevity of things.
Right.
You know, like, you know, burning bank accounts. I burned my bank account at 18 because someone said, "Hey, I'll give you $1,000 if you let me use your bank account." I'm like, "Oh yeah, let's do it."
You know, right. Yeah, you're just, hey, whatever to make that money though, man.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. But man, so through that, you know, so you was with all these the labels and stuff. Nobody didn't say, "Hey, man, we want to give you this deal." So you know what I mean, like some upfront money and everything like that. In that sense.
No, because what it was is like, even when I was offered not through Mr. Capone, but through his partner at the time, Creeper. Shout out to Creeper, man. He did give me a shot saying, "Hey, we'll do a 5-year distribution," but it was no money up front. They're just going to put the money to put in stores and put it out and, and all that stuff.
That was at the Walmart and all that, the Target
Tower
and all that
Records, Virgin.
Yeah, because they had to front that money to be able to pay that, you know, and then you get it afterwards and stuff like that. That time.
So it was a 5-year distribution for 3 projects. It was 1 album and 2 soundtracks at the time.
Okay.
Mr. Capone was doing like these kind of DVDs where he would roll up on people. They would roll up on people, other rappers, and then like jump them, and then like just crazy videos. And he wanted me to do the soundtrack to it, to part 1 and 2. And they were like, "Yeah, we'll get you Big Syph, we'll get you Nate Dogg, and we'll get you all this stuff." But it was like it was 90 cents per unit, and no money up front. And so I felt like it wasn't the best move for me at the time, because they also wanted to own the rights to my publishing, to my image,
I was just about to ask
to my name.
I was just about to ask you that. Yeah.
They said they would have owned it all, And
Yeah,
they would have made so much money off of that.
Oh,
You'd
bro,
be like,
that's a no.
oh man,
Yeah,
yeah.
We
Thank God, you know.
No, we not on that.
Thank God for that wisdom right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they tried. I mean, not they, but him. You know, he was trying. He was just like, hey man, you called me up one day. Have you talked to your lawyer? And I said, no, I don't need to talk to a lawyer. And he's like,
bro, this is common sense. You know what I mean?
Who is this on the
phone? Right?
yeah.
Who is this?
You know what I mean?
There's a new phone. Who is this?
So it's just like everybody's just trying to come off of everybody in a sense, though. You know?
Yeah, I mean,
the game.
the talk I had with him was like, look, if I sign this, if I work at McDonald's and I sign this, I still got to go to my job at McDonald's tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you're saying I got to follow these directions. So if I got to be in the studio at 5, but I got to be at McDonald's at 5, you gonna cut me off? Or I said, what if I sign this right now? It's because it says that if I don't perform my duties, they keep all rights, they could cut me off. So I said, if I sign this right now, I turn around, you shoot me in the back of the head, you keep my rights? I said that. And he just looked at me like, whoa, like I'm just giving him this crazy scenarios.
Right.
Because then he said this too. He's like, well, we got an image, you know, we're known as bullies, so they wanted me to come out the way they want me to come out.
Right.
They wanted me to come out dissing Little Rob at the time. And this is a long time ago. This one, everybody was making names off of beef.
Right.
You know,
oh, okay. I got
this
you.
is because this was 2004.
Right.
You know.
Okay.
And I was just like, I don't even know him. Why am I going to talk about him?
Right. And then you really jeopardize your life for that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, because these dudes are still street dudes at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, wow.
Well, yeah,
that's crazy.
I was just being real with him. I said, look, I'm from a hood too, man, and you roll with people I don't even get along with. But I'm willing to put that aside.
So that we can do money.
Exactly.
Right.
But you're telling me to start beef.
Right. Yeah. Like, what kind of sense is that, though, man? Wow.
So
man.
But you know, one person that did was Marvin Gaye III. I ended up meeting him through one of my girlfriends at the time in 2005. So I rolled up to his house in Studio City, and you know, he was older cat, you know, kind of, you know, he was doped out. You know? He had a little 19-year-old girl on the side of him. He's jumpsuit, you know, like he had money.
Right.
He had money, and he offered me 51% over 49. So he would have had 51, I would have had 49, which he still would have had over me, but he was offering a lot more than what others. Yeah. Others wasn't offering publishing. They just 90 cents per CD when the CD sold like $14.95.
Yeah. It would have been killing.
That's why I was like 90 cents. Like, dang.
Yeah. So from that, but you know, I was gonna go with Marvin Gaye III, which he would have had distribution through Universal, but then I ended up getting locked up. At the time, I was still in the streets, and then it just kind of, you know, went away. They waited a while, but they got tired of waiting, you know. And then I got out. Like I said, when I worked with Meech, ended up leaving after I was done working with Meech. I met G1, ended up working in G1 Studio with. When I met Quick started coming up in that studio, 916 studio. It was in Studio City.
Nice.
So after I finished the execution, I started working on Cali Dreamz mixtape, which that's when I changed my name from Dreams to Cali Dreamz.
Okay.
And then Quick was working in one room on the Blackout with him and Corrupt. I was working on mine, and he would come to my room. We would go to each other's room. He would give me feedback on mine, and he would ask me for feedback on his.
Wow!
So it was a lot of nights we used to hang out, and I got to pick his brain, and we pick each other's brain.
Right, vice versa. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you help produce as well too, right?
Now I do.
Now you do.
See, then I was just the artist. Then I was just the artist. You know, and pushing forward from that. I mean, eventually I got tired of waiting on people. You know, because when you can't do certain things, you got to wait on people. Yeah, even if you pay them, right? And at some point, my producer friend, Two Swift Zavala, which he's big too now in the Spanish market. My boy Swift, he used to produce me. He's from Corpus Christi, Texas. That's where I ended up switching my flow. That's why some of my tracks sound West Coast, some of them sound South.
I was just anyway. Go ahead. Go ahead. Well, no, because we talked about that, right? So you have a very eclectic catalog, and you know what led you to kind of not be pigeonholed into being a West Coast rapper, because your name is literally Cali Dreamz. You know what I mean? And so, you know, what led you to that? Because you could have just gone and be like, look, I'm gonna just be West Coast, I'm gonna keep it West Coast and go that direction. But what led to you keeping it very a very diverse sound from everywhere?
Well, I always like a challenge. I think if something becomes too easy, then it's because you already know it.
Yeah.
And you got to you got to keep challenging yourself. So I didn't want no limit to what I can do. I didn't want to say I can't do this or that.
Right. Yeah.
When it came to writing, when it came to patterns, especially after working with Meech. Meech opened up my eyes to a lot of patterns in writing. When I worked with Meech is a multi-platinum producer.
Yeah.
He produced Snoop and the East Siders and Shaq and all kinds of people.
Right.
So when I worked with him, he said, you know what, I can tell when you work with people, they didn't really produce you, right? They just let you get in the booth and do whatever.
It's a big difference.
Yeah, it's a difference.
Yeah, big difference. Yeah.
So he said, but I'm a producer. I'm gonna produce you. So he used to beat me up in the booth. Not literally,
but it hurts your feelings. Like, no, do it like this and do it like that. You're like, dang, like, man, this boy, he's working me. But then the when it's finished and it's done, you're like, man, this is it's fire.
So it was like going it was like going to boot camp with him where he taught me to drop my pitch and how to use make sure you use adjectives like I and this and that and then patterns. So say I would write a song, he would give me one track at a time. I dropped him 10 grand to start, and then he gave me one track. Like, he didn't just give me a bunch of tracks. He said, I want you to start with this one. And I was like, okay. We got on. I would write, come back. And he was in Hollywood, so I would take rides from Pacoima all the way to Hollywood, right?
Wow. Yo, golly, that's hard.
Yeah, and
but money wasn't no thing though back then, though, right?
I mean,
you dropping 10 grand,
you know, 10 grand. You know what I mean?
That was a buddy of mine, man. My boy Brian Kingston. He invested in me. He believed in me, and he said, "Hey, man, I got this money."
That's what's up.
He said, "I could go blow this on another car, or I could go do this and that, but I'd rather put on something else that'll do good."
Wow,
and he believed in me, so he gave me that opportunity. Thank God he opened that opportunity for me. But the thing is, I'm just saying. So I would write 3 verses and a hook. Go to me, and then he'll say he wouldn't let me get on the mic until he heard it. He said, "Well, let me hear it." So I busted for him live, and he'd be like, "All right, keep the hook. Hook's tight. Rewrite all the verses."
What?
And I'm like, "Yeah." And I'll be like, he's like, change the pattern up. Instead of like that, go. It's because he knew what was in me.
Right. Like he's trying to bring it out of you.
That is so crazy. I hear that.
Yeah, don't rap try where like I remember it was a song Place to Be and it's like where kind of almost like a Pac flow, so many battlefield scars were driven to plush cars because life is the rap star was nothing without gut that chop
right
pattern,
the chopping,
but it kind of like just nonstop syllables and rhymes.
Right.
Even in the hooks, he'll say make sure each word rhyme in the hook.
No. Dude, if I had not listened to a lot of your music today, I would
it was like I just kept playing your music over and over.
Yeah, no, I really did. I can hear when you went from
what up, y'all?
The Drugs album to Volume 1 to Volume 2.
The archives,
yeah, the archives. Like you could tell that as the music changed, from like a more like a Wu-Tang sound, you went with that sound.
Right.
Or when you went with like what's that one song you were kind of doing like a singing hook, like you kind of do like this Drake thing, and I was just like, oh, like he went with that. Like you could tell, no man, I'm not gonna keep like my talent just West Coast to be on a song that sounds like it's from Brooklyn. You know what I mean? And so I can see it paid off. I'm just to let you know.
Yeah,
hearing all your music today, it paid off, man.
Right.
That paid off.
It's just like if some dudes from Brooklyn wanted to rock with me, and I'm gonna rock with you.
Right. You can go there.
Yeah. I didn't want to keep. That's why people hear me on old school tracks, like my boy DB Reborn. He does a lot of old school remakes, and that works beautiful for him. But that's not just me.
That's you. Right.
So I come off a little different, and sometimes people may not understand me, but that's just me as an artist. I'm just very deep and open in the way I write and do things. So I attack a song like I would a film. which I know, okay, this is going to be the opening and this is going to be the climax.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm telling the story, I'm painting a picture for the listener if I'm writing something like a song Call on Me on the volume 2. Yeah, I wrote that in jail. See, when I was in jail.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I wrote like 36 songs in jail. The first time I went, did a county lid, I was 22 years old. I wrote, in 6 months, I wrote 36 songs, and then I wrote some poems, and then I wrote a movie. You know, I actually wrote a movie that I still haven't put together to put out, but it's an idea which I'm going to share. But the funny thing is, before I got into doing film, you know, I did Cali Dreamz Productions is a video production.
Yeah.
You know, it was Quincy Jones III that gave me that idea. I was sitting in his office in Beverly Hills with him, my boy DK No Deal. You know, he's the one that knew him. So we were doing this DVD called What the Streets Say, which had Spider Loke and a couple other artists at the time. It never finished, but I was a part of that. I was on that. And the thing is, so I was sitting in the office, and so Quincy tells me, hey, you write songs? I said, yeah. He's like, okay, then you could write films. And I said, what? He's like, yeah, if you could write songs, you could write films. And then, so he put that idea, he planted that idea in my head. Because I'm a writer,
right? Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah, you write your own bars.
We're not talking about ABC raps or bubblegum raps. We're talking about when you can write and actually put a story and a thought together that moves people.
So if I write the story in the song, I can write the story on the
like
script.
a storyline. You know,
exactly.
Yeah, because you put it in your songs. You know what I'm saying? Like which you paint the picture. That like your songs is like, man, I see what you was talking about. You know, you took me there. You know what I mean? Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and even though now I'm with the Lord, but I thank God for all those experience. You know, I used to hang out with D Woods. He used to manage Rick James. I used to hang out in his mansion in Valley Circle, party with him. I learned from him. I learned from Quick. I worked on Sugar Free's last album, The Resurrection. You know, the first beat I showed him. He was like, "That's it." Like I didn't have to show him the next beat,
right?
Because the whole thing is for me, trying to go from an artist to a producer was not easy. Because everyone knew me as an artist. They didn't know. So when I told my friends, "Hey, I got a studio, man. I could produce." Okay, cool. Yeah. Nobody came.
Right, because you're thinking, you're just you're just an artist, but now you're producing. Now they're like, okay.
So I just followed the same method. When I was young and people thought I couldn't rap when I was 13, 14, I kept it to myself until I developed myself. Then when they heard me, they're like, where'd you have that? Where'd you hold that at?
Right.
Yeah. So I worked on my craft. Then in 2016, I released the Drugs album, which that one, I did all the recording. I did all the mixing and mastering. So I showed myself as a recording engineer and producer now.
Oh, right. Wow.
It was my calling card.
Yeah, I see now.
That people heard it and like, wow, I like the way you got your vocals and this and that. Who did that? Me. Oh, okay. Who? So that's when they let people know I'm not just an artist.
Right.
And then who shot your video? Me. I would shoot my own videos. That Yahweh video, I shot it all by myself.
Really?
Wow.
That was you?
Oh, except for my boy Bernard, my boy Medicine Works. He helped me on the shots where I'm in front of the cross on the hill because I needed someone to help me.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
But all the other parts where I'm walking, I just put the camera on the tripod, and then of course in post production I just use key framing and stuff to move it to make it look like it when I'm walking the thing's moving. So I
that's a
wait. So I'm curious then, if you did all of the if you did all of the production right, so because you had a lot of features, on that album too. Like how did you do that? And then what was the choice to do all the features then? Because it's just about every song on there. Either somebody's doing a hook or somebody's doing a verse on it.
Yeah, well, you know what? The Drugs album was I would say that's the album where I started, where it's my transitioning from the world into the Lord, because that's the first album I did not cuss on, and I kept it clean, and it was my testimony. That's why people might say, "Oh, well, you have gospel music." Look, right. I'm talking. You listen to. I'm talking about the Lord.
No, you are. Yeah. You are.
You can hear it.
But I'm talking about, and then even my opening song, where I'm rapping and I first give a shout out to God before any other rapper.
Yeah.
Because I'm talking about what my what inspired me from the beginning. I mentioned the rappers' names that I told you about, but I put God first.
Right.
You see, the way I wrote it, people got to really pay attention.
No,
what I'm saying.
I was paying
Yeah,
attention. That's why I was like, yo,
I get-
there's a lot of because there's so much, like when you're rapping and producing and you got features and you got folks on the hook, like that's a lot of work,
That's
bro.
a lot of
That is a lot of heavy
work.
lifting.
Yeah.
That was a challenge. It was 20 tracks with one intro, one outro, and